These are this afternoon's top stories. The National Assembly's new session has officially opened. Guyanese media is predicting a win for the opposition coalition, and France has passed a new green law. Good afternoon. Welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Thursday, 14th May 2015. I'm Ebony Brandon. Nationally, St. Kitts and Nevis witnessed the historic opening of the National Assembly under the new Team Unity-led government. The event commenced with the assembly of a Guard of Honor made up of members of the St. Kitts Nevis Defence Force and the Royal St. Christopher Nevis Police Force. One by one, the ministers of government arrived and made their way into the assembly chambers to the chairs of the large crowd which gathered outside of government headquarters. The session consisted mainly of the election of various parliamentary officials and the offering of the throne speech. The Honourable Franklin Brand was elected as the Speaker of the House, while Senator the Honourable Mike Perkins will serve as Deputy Speaker. This was followed by the administering of the oaths to members of Parliament and the delivery of the throne speech by Governor-General's Deputy Tapley Seaton QC. In order to accommodate those who could not be hosted inside the National Assembly chambers, special seating was set up throughout government headquarters, and large screens were installed on Church Street to broadcast the event to those gathered. ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation brought live coverage of the event on radio, television, and online at zizonline.com. Meantime, members of the opposition St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and Nevis Reformation Party boycotted the opening of the National Assembly, citing three reasons for their collective decision. This morning, leader of the opposing St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party and former Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Dr. Denzel Douglas, issued a statement claiming that very troubling developments of recent origin led to their decision. He said if left unchecked and unchallenged by the opposition in Parliament, such developments will result in the rapid and complete degradation of the democratic standards and good governance practices of the government and Parliament. The issues listed in the four-page statement were the appointment of Deputy Governor-General Tapley Seaton QC to deliver the throne speech, the closure of the electoral office in Bastia, and the alleged sacking of public servants without due authority. In other news, police commissioners across the region have been offered access to $20 million in finance funding by Amalgamated Security Services. The offer was made by Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Amalgamated Services, Michael Aboud, during the 30th Annual General Meeting and Conference of the Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police. Mr. Aboud said his company will give regional security forces access to a full array of specialized products and services from which they can benefit.
I bring to the table tonight, as part of our continued role regionally, a great opportunity for any commissioner of his jurisdiction access to a value of $20 million in finance funding for any public law enforcement project that may be considered useful upon or from our range of products and services. To mention a few of these, it will be CCTV systems, X-ray baggage and narcotics equipment, forensic apparatus to aid in the scientific detection of trace evidence left back at crime scenes, police supplies, body-worn camera systems, vehicle tracking solutions for fleet management and deployment optimization.
In regional developments, Guyana's Kaita News is reporting that officials of a number of government agencies and ministries seem to be packing up and leaving ahead of the official announcement of the winner of Monday's general and regional elections. Yesterday, amidst reports of the movement of files and other official documents, Kaita News managed to determine that this was indeed the case. This was a clear indication that the People's Progressive Party, Civic, was conceding that it had lost the elections. Meanwhile, the leader of the opposition coalition, David Granger, met with representatives of the Guyana Elections Commission last evening to discuss the delayed announcement of results.
Coalition retired Brigadier David Granger and other leaders of the opposition coalition this evening met with the Elections Commission as the country awaited an announcement of the elections results. APNU plus AFC have been agitating for the Elections Commission to declare the results of Monday's polls.
An APNU-AFC delegation met with the full commission, and we expressed our concern about the delay in making a declaration. We expressed our concern that business had come to a virtual halt, that there was uncertainty and tension, and that the situation in the country was becoming dangerous day by day. And the longer that it took to make a declaration and bring this process to an end, the more likely we were to move to the edge of disorder. And in that regard, we urged the Guyana Election Commission to speed up the process so that we can have an early declaration.
All we're asking again is that you remain calm. Violence will do nothing for us. We are the next government of this country, and we're asking you to trust us because we are going to do what is right by you.
What we had was just a request for a recount, but no reasons were given why. At least we believe it's a quasi-judicial process. At least you should state reasons, and those reasons must be good and sufficient, that you have reason to believe that. So just say that we want a recount in 1,700 boxes without reason really tells you how ridiculous it could be.
GCOM has allowed the count to start, which is premature because the law requires that declarations are to be made before. But they've undertaken to look at the question of stop the count, any further counting. And what we're interested in is that there's an early declaration and that the president is sworn in, so that the country can move on.
While they've not publicly conceded, the People's Progressive Party Civic has called for a recount of ballots in all 10 electoral districts. This is being challenged by the opposition.
Up to early this morning, the PPP wanted a recount of some ballots in 3 regions. By noon, the Elections Commission Chairman, Dr. ZIZ Mid, announced the PPP added the 7 other electoral districts.
I have been informed reliably that in fact all of the districts will now be challenged in terms of a percentage of ballot boxes, and the contents and the statements of poll particularly we would like to have, or it would be the PPPC would like to have a recount.
The challenge put the legal team of the Elections Commission to work to determine the validity of the call for a recount.
I have my experiences that tell me that once the lawyers and legal matters get involved in this thing, it suddenly becomes greatly problematic.
The opposition coalition said the call for a recount is contrary to the Representation of the People's Act. It claimed that after statements of polls are posted, there is a 12-hour window within which calls for recounts must be made, and the call for a recount by the PPP was made outside of that timeline.
Former Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Panday and People's National Movement Chairman Franklin Khan are both in disagreement with the constitutionality of the government's suspension of the opposition leader, Dr. Rowley, from the House of Representatives. We hear more in this report.
Government continue to defend the People's Partnership's action in the Parliament last week. They have failed to convince one of the key men in the ruling party's history. UNC founder, former political leader and Prime Minister Panday is taking a dim view of the government's machinations in the Parliament.
It is highly undemocratic, and any constitution that allows the government to be able to expel the opposition should be changed. If it is possible, whether by law or otherwise, that a government can remove the opposition, then where is the democracy in this constitution?
On TV6's Morning Edition, PNM Chairman Franklin Khan was asked if, by boycotting the remaining month of the life of this session of the House of Representatives, the PNM was abdicating its responsibility to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. He said they will find another way to push the public's agenda.
Obviously, we had to send a strong message of disgust to the government, because what they have done is ultra vires of these standing orders. And in particular, it is a real whiplash on democracy, because you just cannot use your majority to expel the leader of the opposition, and that is undemocratic in the true sense of the word. The Parliament is there to articulate messages in the people's interest, and if Dr. Rowley so did, you are not judge, jury, and executioner to deem whatever evidence you think you have to see that it is false.
Mr. Khan says if there was more life in the Parliament, the PNM would have had to revisit the strategy. But with 4 weeks remaining, the opposition was not prepared to participate in the charade being played out in the Parliament. The PNM chairman pointed to the fact that there are 2 state agencies currently conducting investigations into the matter, asserting that the House of Representatives was not the place for such an action to be taken against Dr. Rowley. Jovan Ravello, TV6 News.
Internationally, under a new law, all roofs on new commercial buildings in industrial areas in France will have to be partially green. Al Jazeera's Emma Haywood reports from Paris.
Cecile tends to a little piece of Parisian paradise. Green space is at a premium here, and this communal garden is on top of a shopping centre not far from the Eiffel Tower.
There are no spaces in Paris to grow things, so roofs offer a really interesting area to do things, and it's all part of the debate on how to stop global warming.
And in some parts of Paris, tarmac and tiles are being replaced by grass, plants, flowers and soil. This isn't just a growing trend. Under a new law, all roofs on new commercial buildings in industrial areas in France will have to be partially green.
Well, the whole idea behind this isn't just to make everything look that bit nicer. It's to try to improve biodiversity and air quality too.
And pollution can be a problem in Paris. The smog sometimes forces the authorities to ban half the cars from coming into the city. Green roofs are being sold as one fairly inexpensive solution.
Green roofs are important to develop because they improve our quality of life, because in Paris we don't have much green space compared to other European capitals. It's also really interesting for biodiversity, and there's a real impact on pollution. We can capture dust particles with plants, and some plants even capture heavy metals.
Some believe this green roof law could and should have gone further.
These fine particles are absolutely in no way absorbed by a few green roofs on a few commercial buildings in industrial zones. It's completely ridiculous.
As with any new seeds that are sown, it may be some seasons before the full results of this new law are known. Emma Haywood, Al Jazeera, in Paris.
The World Health Organization has warned that the world is heading toward a post-antibiotic era where much of modern medicine becomes impossible. In areas such as Zimbabwe, easily treated typhoid cases have turned deadly as strains resistant to common treatment have evolved. Nadim Baba has the details.
A typhoid clinic in Zimbabwe. These pictures were filmed during a 2012 outbreak of the disease that affected 1,500 people. Normally, typhoid, which is commonly spread in contaminated water or food, can be treated with antibiotics. But a new super strain that resists most antibiotics is spreading around the world. And as more and more infections become drug resistant, it's worrying health experts. The World Health Organization has warned that we're heading towards what they call a post-antibiotic era, meaning much of modern medicine could become impossible, from common surgery to chemotherapy for cancer patients. They've also raised the prospect of infections that used to kill millions of people here in Europe, like tuberculosis, becoming a danger once again. Now a UK-based initiative wants drugs companies to invest $2 billion in researching more effective medicines. Their prize would be large one-off payments if they successfully develop the most needed antibiotics. The money would come from governments worldwide, costing up to $37 billion over 10 years. A hefty sum then, but the man heading the project insists that ignoring the problem would be more expensive.
We've estimated if we don't do these kind of things, it's going to cause world GDP to be $100 trillion smaller than otherwise would be the case in 35 years' time. So, as a person that's thought of risk versus reward for much of my adult life, $37 billion, as big as it sounds, it is nothing.
The idea would also remove the commercial incentive for drugs firms to sell as many antibiotics as possible. That's important because the more the drugs are used, the more the bacteria become resistant. But overprescription by doctors is not the only problem. Most antibiotics consumed in the European Union are actually for factory farm animals to produce meat faster and cheaper. The British government says the world needs to work on the demand side of the problem as well as supply.
We need to, first and foremost, prevent people from getting infected in the first place, and secondly, to ensure that we make very best use of the antibiotics that we've got, that we preserve those antibiotics.
According to the WHO, 3/4 of countries have no plan to deal with growing antibiotic resistance. If the new initiative can at least convince them it's a problem, many lives could be saved. Nadeem Barber, Al Jazeera, London.
Now to take a look at the weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis. Today will be partly sunny with a slight chance of showers expected. Tonight we can expect partly cloudy conditions with a moderate chance of showers. Winds are easterly at 10 to 17 miles per hour. Seas are moderate with heights near 1.8 meters or 6 feet. Small craft and sea bather cautions are in effect for coastal waters east of the islands. And that look at the weather has brought us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Ebony Brandon. Tune in this evening for more of these stories in detail.